Welcome to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast, brought to you by Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, where we are on a mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters.
Welcome to another episode of the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. I'm your host, Brad Quick. I'm the president and one of the partners of Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors. Super excited today to talk with somebody I met. It's interesting. We've run in a lot of the same circles of orthopedics over the last 15 years-ish, and really never met until 3 or 4 months ago. And I've really enjoyed getting to know Luke and a bit about his background and his company, his entrepreneurial business he's running. And so excited to share that with the audience and kind of some of the neat areas that this could impact some of our consulting clients and those surgeon innovators that kind of we bump into. So by way of introduction, Luke White is an entrepreneur who has over a dozen years of engineering development side in orthopedics and spine. Started at, with Biomet and Zimmer Biomet, some time at Avalon, and then a small spine development company before starting his own gig at Priority Medical, which is pretty cool. He received his mechanical engineering degree from Trine University in Angola, Indiana, another place we share in common and never bumped into each other, obviously. So, Luke, welcome to the show. Well, what did I miss? On your background, let's fill in any of the holes I didn't capture there in my brief intro. Luke, tell me a little more about yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on again. It's a huge honor for me. I think you've done your homework really well. You've covered me and more than is necessary. A couple of things that I'd fill in that might be relatable to your audience that you typically have on here. My career started out at Biomet in the limb salvage group, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth. And I spent about half of my career at Zimmer Biomet in that group, and then I spent the other half of it in a more customer-centric group, doing custom instruments or specialized instruments, and I covered the extremities group or the extremities portfolio for US, OUS. And so, I had a very customer-centered role there. And then again, at Avalon Technologies, part of my job was to work with the sales team to support customers. And then I had the good fortune to spend a couple of years with the only medical device spine company in South Carolina, working in a boutique customer service company with Craig Black. And so I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time in my career serving surgeons, serving patients. When you're a quality engineer covering post-market, you're looking at stuff that's coming back from the field. And then when you're in R&D, you're covering surgeons and their needs in the operating room with your existing portfolio. So I've had the good fortune to spend a lot of time interfacing. And then I've also had the good fortune to be under the tutelage and stand on the shoulders of some giants of the industry and have experience with operations, the smallest, probably most unknown parts of the industry, all the way out to standing in operating rooms, like the Mayo Clinic. So,
wow.
So, it's been a huge opportunity for me and a huge blessing in my life.
Absolutely. Well, that limb salvage custom piece. Wow. Were you with Hirschberger at that time, or was he in that group?
So Hirschberger, when I first started into it, he was still leading the group. And then actually when I joined, was when we had started folding that group up into the knee portfolio. So we ended up being part of that group. And so I spent some time with Troy and Josh and some of those guys and Kim and anyways, it was an amazing team. That team is something, it's one of those things you look back on in time and you just mark it as, this, you draw a big green box around that one, say this was awesome.
Yeah, some of the things they've done there and near and dear to my heart, Tyler Trent and that whole story and the work that team did specifically for some of those folks, and just, limb salvage literally just by nature of the discussion is life-changing for sure. So backing up a little bit, tell me about how'd you make the leap, the decision to go into engineering in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it probably started with a love of machines. When I was in high school, Growing up in northern Indiana, we do a lot of farming here. We do a lot of manufacturing here. Those are the gold chain around the neck of our area. And I found that I was good at fixing things. I was a good welder, good at putting things together, good at building things. So I kind of had this idea in my head that I'd be the next Lee Iacocca and design the next Mustang. Which if you as a young man, that's a very sexy thought.
Yeah.
As you get older and you learn more about what that actually involved, Lee Iacocca had almost nothing to do with actually designing the Mustang. He had almost everything to do with convincing the organization that they were going to launch the Mustang. So anyways, which is interesting because I might actually end up becoming more like Lee Iacocca than I had intended or found out. So, that's part of it. But I think the other piece that's probably more so is that my father and my uncle were both engineers.
Yeah.
And, one worked in a spine implant manufacturing company that's well known in the industry. And the other one invented guidance code for rockets and for some of the military applications and some other things. So anyways, had a lot of influence there. But, the bottom line, I think, was as I grew up, I realized that I didn't want to be pumping out farrowing houses for a living. And I was pretty good at math, and I was good at building and fixing farm equipment and other things. And so there was just kind of this, sort of merging of knowledge. And I don't know if I had this perspective on it then, or at least not in these words, but, I felt like it was probably my job at that point to steward the gifts that God had given me to kind of bring those things together. So I was fortunate to have opportunity to go to engineering school at Trine University in Angola, and used to be Tri-State, and got a great education there and learned some amazing things. And that set me up to have some technical acumen and ability to do some things that I'm doing now.
That's awesome. Yeah. So many of us, make the jump into large ortho and never make the jump out. So how did you make that transition from there across, into kind of from there to starting up your own gig in Priority Medical?
Man, that's a multifaceted story. I've actually struggled a little bit as time has gone on to figure out, like, how do you weave all the threads of that together, because there were just so many components over the years. I think some of it, to keep it brief for our purpose here, there was some, unsettled nature of being a young engineer in a large orthopedic company. Looking back in time now, I didn't have a full perspective of what was going on. And I think, you probably were in a position to be a part of that and understand what was going on, what the industry needed to do.
Right.
But the lead measures for success when I was in large ortho had changed, at least at that echelon.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start thinking about economics, governance, regulation, risk management. All of these factors start to affect the companies as they take a very large role in the economy.
Right.
And at the time, I just knew that things were changing. And so I started looking for ways to understand the environment that I was in, because I'd been very fortunate to be a part of, what a lot of people call the good old days of med device, and it was a lot of fun. And I was kind of like, I always say I was the last one. I was the last one that got to be a part of what a lot of us remember from that.
Yeah.
And so anyways, it was all changing. And so I needed to figure out a way to understand where that was going and what we were doing. And so I just kind of started looking around for a case study to help me understand, well, if this is the circumstance that our industry is in, where's it going to go in the next 15, 20, 30 years? Because my career at the time was very young, and I had just had a son and married and had bills to pay and, things to figure out. So I needed to find my place in the world.
Right.
And so I ended up kind of finding this model in the automotive industry. And I began doing things with my career, monitoring things in the market to kind of test out this thesis. And as things started to be, seemed to prove right, that there was going to be some similarities, some parallels.
Right.
I started doing things and making decisions to move myself in that direction and learn in that direction, right?
Right.
And so that leads to, leaving large ortho, doing contract R&D and getting
Right.
into the startup space and just learn, right? Learn what does
Yep.
the rest of the world look like? What does it look like outside the four walls as big ortho? How does
Yep.
that world work? How does the startup world work? I'd always wanted to be in the startup world.
Yeah.
It was always like this thing I thought I would do later. And I was like, no, you're gonna do this now. Eventually I think I learned to find my place. I learned a little bit enough to kind of start to visualize my place in the future. When I left Zera and Biomed, I kind of had just a negative or bleak outlook over the orthopedic capital world and what that was going to look like. And, I had decided to go work in the only med device company in South Carolina at the time. And we were facing challenges there that the solutions for I had always taken for granted, and the ability to solve some problems and stuff were just
Right.
inherent or unique to this community. And so that's when I began to perceive the incredible value that this community in Warsaw and the greater Midwest region had to
Right.
offer to all of med device, right? And
Right.
so kind of think about if you're a company that's outside of the area, how valuable is it then to have access to that? I kind of began to understand my place in our community, the way that
Yep.
I could begin to provide or be a part of several solutions,
Mhm.
be a part of the future. And I also started to perceive that there was a new layer of the economy and a new layer of the industry
Yep.
that had begun to develop.
Right.
And it became more transparent to me or more obvious to me that I could create a solution in that layer and join some other people there. And of course,
Right.
this is all in the middle of a pandemic where everything got turned on its head and
Yeah.
shaken. And,
Yeah.
thing about chaos and the thing about change is that's always an opportunity
Yeah.
to do something and accelerate out of it. So
100%.
uh, in March of 2021, I turned 30. In April, I got online and I filed the paperwork for a business and asked my father if he cared if I used the name of a business that he had owned in the 90s.
Yep.
And in May, I sold our little house in Charleston, South Carolina, and moved my little family back to Silver Lake, Indiana, and moved in with my in-laws. This dream come true to be 30 with 3 kids and move into your in-laws' basement, live under the
Yeah.
stairs. But
Yeah.
that's what we did, and we started a company. I just said, well, we're going to take this $10,000 and we're going to make life really, really small.
Right.
And we're going to do this until we either run out of the money or we start to generate some revenue.
Yep.
And, in June of 2021 is when Priority Medical, actually started to see the wheels turn.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. And you alluded to it a little bit. I'll say it directly too. And you and I have talked about this, that there's no question that the nimble companies such as Priority Medical and others, there is definitely a space in orthopedics, a growing space for them to fill the void for development. And it's nothing against the Zimmer Biomeds of the world, the Strykers, the DePuy J&Js. It's a lot about those companies. It's very large, slow, and expensive for them to do development, whereas a Priority Medical it just by nature of size and exactly the right size teams to do it can really run a lot faster, right? So I think that's an area that all the large ortho companies are exploring. This plug and play event we were at last couple of days, a perfect example of that. Of some of the large majors investing in innovation and that'll pay big dividends for them down the future, right? It's things that they won't have to develop and do in a way that this is harder. The larger you are as an orthopedic company, it's harder, right?
Yeah, I mean it's like you said, it's not. There's no shot against the orthopedic industry. They're taking their rightful place in the economy,
Right.
and that means that we need companies like Priority Medical, and we need startup companies to come in and start doing innovative things and create, a system, a network that backs up the industry that we love, and supports it, and creates a cohesive environment underneath of our our former employers and these big companies that are big brands that have fabulous sales forces and have obligations to regulatory authorities, that have obligations to shareholders, and we just need to look at what does success look like in the industry as a whole, and then for me it's how do we fill those voids and add a ton of value and smile while we do it,
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
It's just keeping on this vein, tell me what's Priority Medical kind of world class at? What are the things you'd say, man, we're really good at this. This is where we really shine.
The fun version.
Yeah.
The fun version is we design stuff, we make stuff, we break stuff. We provide what my friend Aaron Miller likes to call a fancy high-end concierge or execution company. There's a phrase that Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank likes to use, that ideas are a dime a dozen. They're easy to come by. Execution is where, when you find execution, that you're going to find success.
Yep.
And Priority Medical is a consolidation of several generations, more than 5 generations, medical device experience. There's over 70 years of experience under our roof.
Wow.
And we all have a penchant for execution. And so, where there are ideas, I think the place that we excel, the shining star for us, is in orthopedics in particular. We do a ton in orthopedics, and that's where a lot of us come from. We also do some stuff in some adjacent spaces, because we don't, it's not that we don't do something. What we do really well is solve problems, and look at things and drive for solutions. Maybe a more sophisticated response to your question, for the discerning listener is, we're an engineering services company. We specialize in product design, development, commercialization, engineering. We can do just about anything from a napkin sketch, right? If you want to have some cocktails and brainstorm it on an idea, we can do that, all the way down to if you've got product that's in the field and we're looking for what's the cause of a revision case, right? Something's broken and we need to understand why that's broken. Well, we've got some background in doing that too, right? So, this includes technology versus market assessment, right? Does your product, does your idea have a fit in the marketplace? Brainstorming. We had the good fortune after Plumbing Play to sit down and have some discussion about, brainstorming about market fit and regulatory pathway and some of these ways that they're facing some challenges. And we just ask the question, well, what's the sun in your eyes? What's the difficult thing? And we help them converse around that and brainstorm on it and come up with some hypotheses that we can go out and test and try and find a faster way for them to get through the process. Some of the other things, modeling, right? Solid modeling. We got that locked down. That's a given in our space. Prototyping, testing, mechanical testing or otherwise, biocompatibility testing. We know how to get all of that stuff done. That's old hat in Priority Medical. Design controls, verification, validation, 510K. I mean, for some listeners, this is common language, and for some, this is going to be nuanced, and this is something where Priority Medical provides a lot of value. And then for those products that are further along, we understand supply chain. We're plugged in to more than 5 generations of contract manufacturing and medical device manufacturing.
Yep.
And then the other thing that we do on the back end of the industry is everybody on our team has a lot of experience in labs and operating rooms. And so we don't have any concerns when we're working with customers and they say, we want an engineer in my operating room to come and observe what's going on with my technology or this thing that I'm dealing with.
Yep.
And so we can provide, the clinical engineering support to come in and help solve problems, make innovations, make improvements, and we can do it right there. We love those. And everybody on my team loves, like, as soon as somebody says, "Hey, can you come to my operating room?" Like, how fast can I buy an airline ticket?
I'm in. Yeah, sign me up.
I'm in. Yeah, sign me up. I'm there. I'll be there tonight. And then you do the thing, and then you can sit down afterwards and we can have a real conversation. Because, we've got really capable people on the team who understand how to serve a surgeon. And so that ends up being a huge value. And then, for those that have bigger companies, products on the market, there's some other things in post-market engineering, complaints, CAPA, root cause analysis. And then we also serve the strategics in mergers and acquisitions, integration, remediation. We do R&D, quality, design. And then, the big thing is we do a lot. If we don't have it, I'm not afraid to hire some people to do something. We've been blessed to be able to be in a position to hire people when the time is right. And if that doesn't make sense, almost all of our neighbors, friends, neighbors, family, they all live and operate in this space and they're excellent at what they do.
Yeah.
We have a lot of opportunities to bring people in on a fractional basis as needed and provide some really amazing, talented people to get the job done.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I just got a little PTSD there. You mentioned CAPA and remediation. Like I had to flinch there for a second. So
me too, man. Fortunately, I'm in a position now. We have people,
exactly.
So I only deal with it some.
Right. There you go. That's a great reason to hire others. Yeah. So, so as you know, we talked about this. We at Vestia Consulting, we work with some innovators and others do. Some surgeons themselves. It's interesting. Very smart people. They doing cases repetitively over and over, and overwhelmingly, they're boy, I've got an idea how to fix this, make it better. Whether that's just an idea, whether it turns into a patent. I mean, any guidance for some of these innovators? Like, how do I even get started? I don't even know where to begin to try to bring this cocktail napkin sketch to life. Like, any guidance for some of those folks who are listening today?
Besides telling you or me?
Yeah. That's it. Okay, next question.
That's right. Next question. Moving on. I'll speak from my position, my seat in the theater. And I don't think this is the end all to be all per se. Always ask yourself the question, what's unique about what I'm doing and where I'm at, and then kind of filter the advice that you're given.
Right.
Don't always take everything at face value, but some of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years in talking to people who have new, innovative, exciting ideas, get a really good go-to-market strategy from somebody that understands your space, understands med device. Don't get lost in trying to understand how your device plays. There's some folks out there that can add a ton of value in helping create language, helping understand how well a market segment is formed or how underdeveloped the market segment is. They can add a ton of value to kind of create a litmus test for an idea and understand if the idea is something that you should invest in, or if it's something that's early or late, or if there's a nuance that maybe you do or don't want to deal with. The other thing, another thing is work with somebody that understands regulatory and develop a good, solid boundary condition for your regulatory pathway. We've talked to some people over time, and sometimes they come to us and, the regulatory pathway is just not super well defined, or maybe they've talked to somebody and they've formed a strategy or a path forward, but it's lacked some creative problem solving, and maybe there's some other ways to get it done. So,
Right.
invest in those two areas for sure. The third thing that I think probably paramount, especially when it comes to, exceeding expectations versus dealing with disappointments and frustrations in the creative process, is define how far you're willing to take something and what's the associated risk or benefit associated with your goals.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes there are just times when you need to know how far you're willing to take it, because one of the things we've found is the farther you take it, the more it's going to cost you, but
Right.
the more you're going to get out of it. And if
Right.
you can set some expectations for yourself around that, you can deliver results that are very satisfying.
Yep.
If you don't set some expectations for that, we've worked with some people that are kind of frustrated with it, and then that it's just less than satisfying experience for them, and I don't think that's what we want for anybody. So
Right.
think about that. Just think about, what do I want out of this thing? Where do I want off the bus? How long do I want to stay off the bus? And what do I want out of it? What does it take to get there?
Sure.
Um, this one's probably my personal bet. This is one of those where you're gonna, some people are gonna tell you one, I'm gonna tell you another, but only buy what you have to have early on.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people buy things and buy this, buy that, pay for this service, pay for that service, something else. Try and keep it small early on.
Yeah.
And be selective about who you work with.
Is it?
There's a lot of folks out there. Everything isn't equal. Ask a lot of questions.
Sure.
I don't think there's any harm. There's nothing offsetting or off-putting about asking a lot of questions about who you're working with and making sure that they can align with you well, and that you work with them. That's really important. Otherwise, again, when you start talking about expectations being exceeded or not met, it's an easy way to help make sure that you're really satisfied with your experience.
Yeah.
Probably the last two here, and these are kind of oldie but goodie. We used to use this a lot as fail often, fail early, but fail fast, fail forward, right?
Yeah.
And just understand, something that I've discovered in doing it and being in the R&D part of the industry is oftentimes what folks are paying for to bring a product to market is a learning experience, right? We're buying opportunities to test theories or hypotheses and prove ourselves right or wrong. And so, try and do that as quickly as possible. And I always ask people to give me a little bit of grace. Give me a little bit of grace. My job is to help you fail, right?
Yeah.
And if you can trust me to help you fail, I can help you fail a couple times. We can do it quickly. We can minimize the pain. And what it does is it gets you to a point of being able to make really important life decisions about whether you want to continue to do something or whether this is something that is a good fit. So again, going back to exceeding expectations versus dealing with disappointment. So I think that's something to think about. Just frame yourself up with, all right, I'm paying to fail here, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest failure in the world because that's my job, is to fail, right?
Break stuff, you said, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, break stuff. All right, we like to break stuff. And then the last thing, and this is a total ripoff from somebody named Gary Vaynerchuk, but be macro patient and micro aggressive.
Yeah.
That's how we treat business. And when you're doing new things, innovative things, challenging things, I'm yet to see where that behavior has to pay off.
Yeah. Yeah. Something you said, Luke, really is 100%. And this is something I've explained again, some of the people I work with, is the further you get, it costs more, but the more the returns are, right? So patents are worth X. Patents that have been designed and have a, solid frozen engineering design, et cetera, worth more. That through the FDA is, really worth more. That with sales, et cetera. So somewhere in there, again, you can have the best patent in the world. Maybe that's going to be worth something, spectacular. But the further, especially as we talked about this gap, this niche, that it's harder for the large, the majors to do some of this work. having an FDA cleared is probably the price of entry for a lot of this stuff, right? I think that's no question.
Big time.
Yeah.
No question about it. An FDA clearance, it's huge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it the minimum threshold.
Yeah, fair.
But when you start to have really early phase conversations and you're early on, I think that's a reasonable expectation to start saying, hey, like kind of start setting your eyes on what is it going to take to get an FDA clearance for this thing. Then it opens your doors. There's actually some legal ramifications around that with the sale of medical device companies.
Yeah.
So that's something that we actually have introductory pitch decks we do with people when we're doing introductions and getting to know one another, and that's part of our process with our customers. At least the customers that we work with that are doing really new and innovative things. Is, hey, here's kind of a pathway and some ways that you can think about. And for us, it's an illustration of a highway with exit ramps. But what exit ramp do you want to take? And what's the toll to get there? And 510K, if it's a traditional pathway, is one of those.
Sure.
And like you said, another is some clinical. If you've got some clinical, that's another space where your price point starts to go up a little bit. Sales, and the price point really starts to go up.
Oh, yeah.
And, you start doing some sustained sales where you show that you can develop a sales force on this thing. Now you're really getting there. But the trade-off is a lot more capital intense and a lot more time intense. And so that's where you just ask yourself the question, okay, well, I've got an outcome and I've got two inputs for it. Which ones do I value the most? There's a place for each category, but if you define that expectation on the front end, you're going to love the process. Guarantee it.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But so Luke, where do you see your business in, let's call it 5-10 years? It's hard to look out that far sometimes, but you guys have a sense of where you want to be?
Yeah. I expect that Priority Medical is going to be located in Warsaw, Indiana.
Yep.
That's a definite. I think that we're going to see Priority Medical break into some new and probably even some surprising spaces and do some things that are different and really add on to it. I think that we're going to see Priority Medical double in size about every year.
Wow.
For the next 5 years, and maybe more. And that's somewhat based off of current trajectory, and some of it's based off of future planning.
Yep.
And then, bottom line, every day is we're going to provide more amazing experiences for our customers. And that's my expectation. If we do that, the rest is straight.
Yeah. What do the big ortho companies think about Priority Medical? And you and kind of some of your peers that do kind of some of this work.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's kind of a mixed bag.
Right.
There's a lot of different opinions about it right now, and a little bit all over the place. But I think some of them see us, Priority Medical specifically, and the peers, as a creative internal solution to an innovation problem, right? So we kind of identified the innovation problem earlier, that it's just slow or it becomes stunted. And so I think they see this space that I'm in, or the Priority Medical, in this creative way to solve that. I think that they, in current state, for me, and the conversations that I have in the industry, they see us through the lens of our predecessors, right? So they see us through the lens of the behavior of some of the firms that have gone before us and some of the stories from before. I think one of them you can think of, it's anybody wants to get curious about space, you can go check out Medicine Lodge. There's quite a bit of information around what happened with Medicine Lodge and what they did. And one of the earlier entrants into this kind of business practice.
Yep.
But I think some are starting to see us more as like a strategically aligned, trusted catalyst for outside innovation. And for me, that's exciting. That's what I'm excited about, is when I get to have a conversation with somebody inside of a large strategic and they start to see us as a catalyst for solving their problems and a partner that they can trust. And they start to lean into the relationship with us and start to ask the question, help me, help you, help me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we get to that point, our best relationships and our best business and our best clients, we have the least amount of detail surrounding our relationship on paper. And most of it is an agreement and a full alignment with their business. That our job is to come in and accelerate their success.
Right. That's awesome. Luke, this has been great. Before we wrap up today, one of the questions we love asking our clients, one of the values we have at Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors is called Wealth That Matters. And so what, for Luke White, what does Wealth That Matters mean to you?
That's a fabulous question. I think it's difficult for me to answer a little bit, but I would say, I think store up your treasures in heaven.
Yeah.
And build enough here that you don't answer to anyone, so that the whites can continue to be outrageously generous to those around them and others for generations to come.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah. So, Luke, it's been a real pleasure having you on today. For those of you who are interested in learning more about Luke White and Priority Medical, we'll include some contact information down in the show notes. And so for those of you who love the show and want to continue to get episodes like this, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you would like to learn more about how to engage an advisor, whether it's for the consulting side or for managing doctor financial family wealth, make sure you reach out to us at myteam@vestia.com. That's myteam@vestia.com. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. We hope today's conversation advanced your journey toward wealth that matters. Make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our amazing episodes. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Vestia Advisors, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Before investing, you should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses associated with investment products. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification and asset allocation do not ensure a profit or guarantee against loss. Consult your financial professional before making any investments. Investment advisory services offered through Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, and Vestia Advisors, LLC. Securities offered through Osdale Financial Partners, Inc., 5187 Utica Ridge Road, Davenport, Iowa, 52807. Member, FINRA, SIPC. Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, Vestia Advisors, LLC, and Osdale Financial Partners, Inc. are independently owned and operated.